Looking to diversify your business portfolio with a high-growth opportunity? Discover Mathnasium Learning Centers, the #1 math-only education franchise. For more than 20 years, Mathnasium has triumphed in a booming multi-billion-dollar tutoring industry with over 1,200 centers worldwide. Ranked on Entrepreneur's Franchise 500 list for 11 consecutive years, Mathnasium is low-cost, recession-resistant, and offers significant growth potential in an expanding market. The demand for math education is skyrocketing, driven by declining math scores and the growing need for STEM skills in today's workforce. What makes Mathnasium a smart investment? Affordable entry point and quick build-out time. High-earning centers with 7-figure annual revenue, industry-leading 30% plus average profit margins, and it's a trusted brand with high consumer satisfaction scores. And here's something extra. They're offering a 25% discount on the franchise fee for former teachers and veterans. So whether you're expanding your franchise portfolio or making your first investment, Mathnasium gives you the systems and support you need to succeed. Get your free franchise information kit at mathnasiumfranchise.com or call 888-763-2604. That's mathnasiumfranchise.com or call 888-763-2604.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, I'm Dan Bova, writer and editor at Entrepreneur.com, and welcome to another snack-sized edition of our show, How Success Happens, which you can hear every Wednesday, so please subscribe. This week, I'm going back to a chat I had with the one and only Ralph Macchio. We talked a while back when his book, Waxing On, The Karate Kid and Me, was just released. And listening back to that conversation, I have to say, much like this dude's face, the conversation hasn't aged a bit. Ralph got started pretty early in life with acting and scored some major hits. The Outsiders, The Karate Kid, My Cousin Vinny, to name a few. And he had some, what he would describe as quiet time in his career before it came roaring back to life into the zeitgeist with Cobra Kai. So first I asked Ralph about that start and how he successfully managed the career valley he describes. And the key to both things came down to one word: family. How old were you when you made Karate Kid? 15?
I was 21, turned 22. There's
right.
There's plenty of information. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
The Macchio curve. I write about the Macchio curve.
At that stage of your life, was acting it? Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my life no matter what. Was there a backup plan? What was going on?
It's funny because you talk about the plan Bs. There are a lot of people who say don't focus on a plan B because you'll never get your plan A. I'm somewhere in the middle. I still think you have to have, being creative, being an actor, being in this industry is something you could always do. Whether you can make a living at it or not is another story. And I've been beyond blessed. But there were certain times where I was not making a living at it, but I was smart enough that I didn't get sucked in the vortex and underwater. But I grew up, I mentioned films of the 70s. I grew up at that time where I just, I had that I was the daydreamer in English class. That was when I read The Outsiders, which I did when I was 12, my head was out the window thinking about, wow, what if I knew these guys? What if it's really a dream come true role for me, that film. And so I fell in love with storytelling at a young age, watching old movie musicals with my mom. And I write about this in the book as well, that I wanted to be Gene Kelly when I was 6,
Right.
He was the coolest. He was athletic. He was smooth. He was good looking. And yes. So I mean, it happened fairly quickly for me.
Yeah.
I think if anything, I paid my dues later after I had my initial success. And now it's bearing more fruit than anyone could imagine, myself included.
Those years where maybe it wasn't going exactly, Karate Kid level, did you freak out at any point, or how did you keep your head together? As you said, you didn't get sucked into this, you didn't buy 72 Lamborghinis and now
Right.
you're flat broke. I guess, how did you keep your head together when things were great? And then, being an actor in this whole industry, pretty anxiety inducing, I would guess.
Yep.
You don't know where your next big hit is coming from. So how do you sort of bridge those times?
Yeah, that's a great question. I write about that in the Waxing On book. So I think it's part my upbringing as how I handle the success on set, and part my own sensibilities. I was a New Yorker. Anytime I was in LA, I wanted to be back in New York. The Mets were doing pretty good at that time, so I wanted to be at those games. My Islanders, a hockey team, was winning the Stanley Cup, so I wanted to be at those games. So it's like I didn't want to necessarily be on Sunset Boulevard getting into the coolest club. I wanted to be back at the game or with my family or stuff like that. So some of it is upbringing, and some of it is, when I say my own sensibilities, I was less seduced by all that. It was overwhelming to me. So instead of like dipping the toe in the water, I kind of recoiled from it. When I look back at it, I think of it that way, and I think that worked for me. Although, sometimes you need to go down those paths to get a deeper meaning of life, but it is a slippery slope. So I guess what I may have lost in experience, I've gained in not sliding down the side of the mountain. And so that's the way I look at it at this point. Now, when things got tougher in the business, meaning I was not on the list anymore, I was not getting the parts for a while, I had there's a stress anxiety level. It's very tough not to become desperate and want to sat in that world, or even in New York City. I was still out in the burbs of Long Island, sort of, so I was able to create my own life, even though there was that void of what used to be is no longer anymore. What I wound up doing is diving into different types of storytelling, some writing, directing of some short films. Being creative in some way did help with that. And I never got so far. The Karate Kid, The Outsiders, Vinny, My Cousin Vinny, these movies have always kind of stood the test of time. Even when they were older films, they were still kind of cool older films. Yeah. It's not like I was in the one that just went out with that decade. I got to be a few that graduated and stuck around. So I was never kind of totally uncool and has been.
Right.
So maybe I got a little bit of luck that
you weren't a Spice Girl.
Well, I'm not going to, you could say that. I'm not saying that.
Okay, there it is. I'll say it again. Ralph Macchio is not a Spice Girl. It was really cool talking to Ralph. As you can imagine, if you got to talk to the Karate Kid himself, there might be some head exploding as you're talking to him. But super awesome guy, has his head so level. It was just an amazing thing to hear someone who has done so much just be like such a normal, collected guy. Well, that's it. It's a snack. It's not a full meal. It's just a short little thing to listen to, say that was cool, and go on with your day. Maybe you're a little fired up. Maybe go beat up some bullies. Now, don't do that. Don't beat anybody up. What you should do, though, is subscribe to our show. If you subscribe to this, you'll also get How Success Happens, our full show that comes out every Wednesday. Plus, we're going to be on the YouTube. That's right. Full episodes of all the great guests we talk to on YouTube, on Entrepreneur Media. And if you love the Dan Bova Experience, and I know that you do, It's nothing to be embarrassed about, nothing to feel shame about. You can subscribe to my Substack, This Should Be Fun, where I write about all kinds of goofy adventures, mostly involving my crazy dog. And as always, a special shout out to the makers of the How Success Happens theme song, Nika RPM. You could check out their music on Bandcamp. And as always, if you want to share your thoughts, feelings, emotions, something weird you dreamt last night, hit me up at howsuccesshappens@entrepreneur.com. If you write me something weird enough, good enough, smart enough, or anything enough, I will read it on the next show. So hit me up. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.